Discover the 7 sinister secrets that reveal the haunted truth you should only watch at night. The soft hum of the night wrapped around Maplewood, a town seemingly innocent beneath its facades. But tonight, the shadows whispered secrets, and for Jenna, a 30-year-old single mother, sleep was a distant memory. She'd just tucked Tommy into bed with his favorite dinosaur plushie, a ritual full of warmth that cracked under the pressure of harsh realities. Alone in her living room, the weight of exhaustion pressed like an anvil on her chest. But in the darkness of her attic, a relic from another time beckoned, a dusty VHS that promised entry into an unsettling world. Its label read 7 Sinister Secrets, the faded letters curling ominously, a siren call. Compelled by an urge she couldn't quite understand, Jenna set up the old VCR. As the screen flickered alive, distorted images twisted across the monitor, dragging her into a web of consuming tales. Each story unraveled before her, suffused with dread. The sweet old lady down the street making cookies, but whispered about for her nightly rituals. The principal, it was said, had a penchant for students who vanished without a trace. Her heart raced. Jenna felt the room grow colder, shadows pooling in the corners like secrets waiting to spill. Suddenly, with each crackle of the tape, her home felt different, alive in a way that unnerved her. The creak of the floorboards echoed like an evil laugh, taunting her nerves. Tommy's innocent dreams began to darken, his drawings morphing into something sinister, a shadowy figure he called the Watcher. Jenna shivered as she recalled one particularly terrifying picture, its huge eyes boring into a family, potentially her own. It was as if the very fabric of their lives was unraveling. Having lived in Maplewood long enough to trust the community, she felt a prickle of paranoia. Was her peaceful neighborhood hiding horrors beneath perfect smiles? Yet when she reached out, her neighbors offered nothing but hollow laughter, a false veneer of camaraderie overlaid with barely concealed hostility. The friendly greetings felt loaded, each wave a reminder of the darkness lurking just out of sight. As the chilling tales morphed into reality, rumors of disappearances buzzed like flies, drawing closer like a predator on the hunt. The cops ensured her fears were nothing more than delusions of a tired mom, brushing off her concerns. Just a bad case of the jitters, ma, they scoffed, leaving her feeling more isolated than ever. Alone amidst a sea of smiling faces, dread coursed through her veins, a terror she couldn't articulate. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each night, as Tommy settled into restless sleep, Jenna's fears burgeoned. A night of darkness soon brought terror to life. She awoke one breathless morning to find her house empty, the chilling air thick with foreboding. The realization crashed upon her: Tommy was gone. The tape's warnings ran through her mind like a sickening mantra about hunters that roamed at night, their cruelty undisguised, their hunger never satiated. Frantic, Jenna bolted from house to house, desperation clawing at her heart. The shadows lunged in the periphery, each flicker of movement causing her pulse to race. Was it simply her imagination, or was something truly watching from the cozy porches of friends turned strangers? The air grew heavy with unease as she dashed further into the night, searching for any trace of her son, teetering on the brink of madness as the dark pulled tighter around her. What had she unleashed? As Jenna dove deeper into the night, her half-whispered hopes echoed against hollow walls, only to be drowned out by the sinister grip of her worst fears, a hidden truth lurking in the dark, and the price she might have to pay for her search. With every step, she realized the colorful lives of those around her were painted over something truly rotten, a truth that stretched beyond the deceptive calm of Maplewood. Would she uncover the sinister connection that tied her neighbor's complacency with her struggle, or would darkness swallow her whole? The night loomed, poised for her choice. Fear clutched at her, urging her toward revelation or ruin. Jenna stumbled through the indecipherable shadows of Maplewood, fear gnawing at her sanity. The town, once a sanctuary, now felt like a labyrinth of hidden horrors. With every breath, she summoned fragments of her courage, reminding herself of the warmth of Tommy's laughter, of his dinosaur plushie waiting as a silent witness to his absence. The houses loomed around her, their once friendly facades now grotesque in the dim light. Windows, eyes to the soul, seemed to observe her frantic search. Were they empty, or were they filled with the very darkness she feared? Each crack in the pavement sounded like a death knell echoing her escalating panic. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a reminder of the outside world she barely belonged to now, yet she ignored it. Thunder grumbled overhead as the clouds intensified, the winds adding to the haunting nature of the night. The streetlights cast long, sinister shadows, twisting and shifting as if animated by an unseen force. A chill seeped into her bones, and she wrapped her arms around herself, an attempt to stave off the icy fingers of despair. The thoughts raced. She needed to find Tommy. She had to protect him from whatever evil prowled these streets. Then she heard a soft sobbing drifting through the thick air. It was faint, almost like a whispering ghost trailing on the wind. Focusing, she followed the sound, every step feeling heavier than the last. Each footfall brought her deeper into the abyss, the crying leading her to a run-down house at the end of the block. Jenna paused, her heart thumping wildly. The wood of the rickety porch creaked ominously under her weight. Peering through the grime-coated window, she saw a sight that turned her blood to ice. It was a group, gathered in a circle, their faces obscured in the flickering light of a single candle. They whispered, glancing toward the door as if drawn by an unseen force. The crying intensified, and her breath caught in her throat. It was Tommy's voice. That a storm of emotion surged within her, fury, terror, a searing rush to rescue him broke over her like a tidal wave. Without another thought, Jenna hurled the door open, shattering the unsettling stillness. "Tommy!" She screamed, her voice echoing in the claustrophobic space. The room turned as they all turned, eyes wide with astonishment and something darker, familiarity cloaked in malevolence. They stood frozen, almost like marionettes caught in a sinister dance of stillness, their smiles stretching unnaturally across their faces, mocking her. Jenna's pulse quickened. Had they taken her son? The leader of the group, an older woman she recognized from the neighborhood, stepped forward, her gaze piercing through Jenna's soul. "You shouldn't have come here, Jenna," she crooned, her voice coated in honey but laced with venom. "You're not ready for the truth." "What truth?" Jenna spat, dread coiling tighter around her heart. "Everything has its price, dear." The woman's eyes glimmered as she gestured toward the shadows behind her. "And your son? He's the key." Her stomach churned as realization and horror entwined. What had she stumbled upon? Suddenly, the ground quaked beneath her, the house seeming to breathe. Walls closed in, the flickering light bent wildly, shadows morphing into grotesque imagery that taunted her fragile sanity. Jenna's instincts screamed at her to flee. Every instinct told her to snatch Tommy away and escape, but what if they'd already reached into his mind and taken his spirit? Desperation flooded her veins as she launched forward. But before she could take even a step, she heard a familiar laugh, light and airy yet filled with a dark undercurrent. There stood Tommy, holding his plush dinosaur, his eyes wide and unblinking. "Mommy! You came!" he shouted, joy mingling with something more sinister bubbling beneath. Panic struck Jenna like a hammer. But all was lost, shadows wrapped around her, encasing her in an icy grip. The woman's voice wrapped around her mind. "It's too late for both of you." The light dimmed, the candle flickered, and Jenna felt the relentless pull of the darkness, dragging her down. What was happening? Would she and Tommy ever escape the depths of Maplewood's secrets, or had she unraveled a darkness meant to consume them both? The darkness wrapped around Jenna like a shroud, pulsing with a life of its own. Panic surged through her, and she strained against the cold that enveloped her. "Tommy!" A scream clawed its way out of her throat, but it barely sliced through the silence. Eyes like empty voids regarded her from the corners of the room. The older woman's smile widened, revealing teeth too sharp, too white in the dim light. "He's already part of us." The words spilled from her lips like venom, twisting Jenna's stomach into knots. You might as well join him. Jenna stumbled back, her mind racing. She had to wake up. This wasn't real. But the laughter that poured from Tommy's lips felt all too real, a chilling echo that sliced through her thoughts. Mommy, don't be scared. It's fun here. Fun. Her heart sank. What had they done to him? In that moment, every shadow in the room seemed to pulse with malicious energy, closing in on her. She felt their eyes, countless eyes burning into her back. They were waiting. Just a little test, the woman crooned, stepping closer as the air grew thick and suffocating. A sacrifice, no. Jenna shouted, her voice tinged with desperation. She flung her arms wide, as if to block the dark tendrils of their presence. I want to let you take him. But the shadows didn't hesitate, they rushed toward her, writhing and curling like black smoke. A blinding flash erupted from the candle, forcing Jenna to shield her eyes. She thought she had imagined it, the flicker of hope, but then she caught it again, the glimmer of light pushing back against the darkness. The shadows recoiled momentarily, and she felt a spark deep within, a memory of warmth. Tommy. She needed him to remember her, to see through the haze. Look at me. His gaze faltered, something flickering behind his lifeless eyes. Mommy? Yes. It's me. Jenna cried, all fear stripped away as determination surged like fire. She lunged toward him, reaching for his small hand. We have to go. Now. But as she brushed against his fingertips, a flood of images crashed over her, whispers of a pact, a twisted bargain struck in the depths of Maplewood. The faces of the townsfolk, their eyes sunken and hollow, swirling with shadows and screams of those who had vanished. Not yet. The old woman shrieked, her voice slicing through Jenna's visions. The room shrank, shadows tightening around her. You must pay the price before you take him. Jenna struggled, her breath coming fast and shallow. She had to think. What did they want? The candle flickered again, casting a surge of brightness over Tommy's face. For a heartbeat, she saw him again, the boy with the bright laugh, the boy who made her world whole. Mommy, I'm scared, he whimpered, the innocence breaking through the darkness. Stay with me, Tommy. She pulled harder, defying the shadows. Fight it. As if he heard her, Tommy blinked, clarity returning to his wide eyes. But the group moved as one, shadows shifting into a wall, blocking her path. You will pay. I'd rather die than lose him. Jenna screamed, drawing on every ounce of strength. The shadows pressed closer, suffocating her with despair. But she felt something shift. Was it the candle? It flickered more violently now, lighting the edges of the walls, and then she heard it. A low, guttural growl from the depths beneath the floor. It rattled the very core of her being, a sound born from the darkest recesses of Maplewood's history. As if summoned, the ground trembled again, a resonance that echoed with every anguished scream and whispered prayer of the trapped souls. Mommy. Tommy's voice sliced through the noise, raw with urgency. Now. Jenna urged, her heart pounding with determination. Would their wills be strong enough to pierce the heart of the darkness? Or would the town's secrets swallow them whole? The ground ruptured beneath their feet and a blinding light erupted from the depths, illuminating the haunted faces of Maplewood. But as she clung to Tommy, she realized it wasn't the light they had craved, it was the darkness. What truth would emerge if they escaped? Or would the shadows claim them, leaving even more horror lurking in the town? Jenna felt the light press against her, a pulsing halo that fought valiantly to keep the shadows at bay. But part of her was terrified of what it would reveal. The ground quaked beneath them, and with each shudder, the laughter morphed into shrieks, anguished cries of those lost in time. Tommy, hold on to me. She shouted, feeling the boy's small hand clutch her tightly. He looked up at her, eyes wide with fear and confusion. Beneath the blinding radiance, something flickered, a moment of clarity that threatened to shatter again if they didn't escape soon. "Mommy, I don't want to stay here." His voice trembled, each word pulling at Jenna's heart. "I know, baby, I know." Tears streamed down her face as she forced a smile, a desperate attempt to reassure him. But around her, the shadows were closing in, their whispers clawing at her sanity, beckoning her to stay, to join the damned. "Leave, leave this place," the old woman shrieked, her figure breaking from the shadows, teeth bared, a grotesque parody of a smile. "You don't belong here, and you're holding him back." The darkness thrashed, a living entity coiling around her, pressing against her skin like ice. Radio static surged into the air, filling her mind with jumbled memories that weren't hers, people she couldn't place, their faces freezing in eternal horror. She glanced back at Tommy. "We have to go before they drag us down." The light pulsed brighter, igniting the room like a flare in the night. Jenna felt the warmth seep into her bones, pushing back the cold that threatened to devour them. She and Tommy were at the brink, but the shadows would not clutch their hand. They had to believe. Beneath the chaos, a shadow stirred, darker than the rest. It slithered towards them like quicksilver, reflecting the flickering candlelight. Jenna's breath hitched as she recognized it, the specter of someone familiar, a figure from the farthest reaches of her mind. Her heart raced, she couldn't let it distract her. "Focus, Jenna," she muttered to herself. Tightening her grip on Tommy, she steeled her resolve amidst the bedlam. "On three, we run." 1-2 light burst from within her memories, illuminating fragments of the town as past the sacrifices, the blood on the pavement, the screams swallowed by the night. With a final surge of screaming energy from the ground, she yelled, "3." They launched forward, pushing against the wall of darkness. As they ran, she could feel the cold fingers curling around her ankles, trying to pull her back, trying to snatch Tommy away. But he would not let go, and neither would she. Freedom felt tangible, right at her fingertips, but then she heard it, a deep, hollow laughter that vibrated through her bones, echoing her name. "Jenna, Jenna." It reverberated like an incantation, and with each repetition, the darkness thickened, swelling to consume everything in its path. She felt the weight of countless souls pressing down, clawing to be free, intertwined with her very existence. "Mommy, I can't see." Tommy screeched, panic breaking through the light that enveloped them. With one final push, she tossed aside her fear and focused on the shadows above, where the ceiling twisted like a storm cloud ready to break. "Not today," she shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. But just as they neared the exit, a barrier formed, a wall of shadow that blocked their path, pulsating like a heartbeat, like a living creature. "You will pay for your defiance. You cannot escape the darkness of Maplewood," it rasped, sinister and unyielding. Jenna looked back at Tommy, pure terror painted on his little face. In that moment, she felt the enormity of their struggle, a weight, heavy as stone, resting on her shoulders. Could they truly escape? Or was the town's wretched past destined to drag them both into its corrupted depths? She took a breath, filled with resolve. "We'll find a way, Tommy. Together." And then, just as they were about to break through, the shadows began to spill forth, whispering secrets Jenna never wanted to hear. Would their escape become a descent into the very horrors they sought to flee? What awaited them beyond the veil of darkness, and who would truly pay the price for their freedom? The barrier throbbed, a grotesque membrane of shadow that pulsed with anger. Jenna felt its coldness seep into her. It clawed at her, anchoring them in a grip that felt like despair itself. "Mommy, I can't breathe," Tommy cried, his small frame trembling against her. Panic rose in her chest, a poisonous tide threatening to drown her in fear. "Hold on, baby. Just hold on." Her voice quivered, but she fought to keep it steady. The wretched laughter of the shadows escalated, turning into a cacophony of gnarled pleas as memories surged forth, their cries laced with desperation. "Jenna, Jenna." Each call wrapped around her heart, squeezing until she felt it might stop. Her eyes darted toward the shimmering light that had brought them this far, the tenuous thread of hope that dared to rise above the gathering shadows. "Let go of us," She shrieked, a surge of fury igniting her spirit. You don't own us. Her shout broke through the nightmare's grip, resonating against the shadowy walls. The cacophony stuttered, then faltered. The darkness around them flickered, like an old projector trembling between images. For a moment, Jenna could have sworn she saw faces of the damned within it. Each one frozen in agony, eyes pleading for release. Finally, the barrier rippled, tearing open a jagged hole through the shadow and exit into the unknown. But hesitation clawed at her. With the darkness whispering through the fissure, doubts raged in her mind. What lay beyond? Another trap. More horrors. Mommy, I see light. Tommy shouted, eyes wide with hope, pulling her closer to the opening. Go. She urged, pushing him ahead while glancing back at the churning shadows. The whispers twisted into a call, beckoning her back into their cold embrace. Images flashed before her, a family torn apart, a house burned to the ground, eyes wide with terror. Warnings that felt unnaturally close. Jenna, stay with us, the shadows writhed, reaching for her like insatiable hands, wild and desperate. Turn away. She urged Tommy, gripping his shoulder, her nails digging into skin. Don't look back. Just run. Without hesitation, Tommy dove through the gap, and Jenna followed, desperation propelling her forward. As she crossed the threshold, a frigid wave slammed against her back, the shadows trying to claw her back, yanking on her clothes. Heart pounding, she pushed through, her hands scrambling until she felt the ground solid beneath her feet. They tumbled onto the damp grass, gasping for breath, faces pale from the ordeal. Light surrounded them, bright and blinding, a stark contrast to the darkness they had narrowly escaped. But as the darkness receded behind them, Jenna couldn't shake the feeling of eyes watching from the shadows. The laughter had ebbed but not disappeared, pressed against their reality like a cold mist. Mommy, we did it. Tommy's jubilant voice broke through, but she saw the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. He sensed it too. Behind them, the barrier twisted, reshaping into a grotesque visage, and the whispers turned into a warning. You think you escaped, but the price is yet to be paid. Jenna turned to him, realizing the battle was far from over. The air felt colder, filled with tension that twisted her gut. They'd outrun the shadows, but the very essence of Maplewood was inescapably entwined with them now. What did it mean to escape a nightmare only to find it clinging to their heels? As torrential wind howled through the trees, a chill swept across Jenna's skin. The town felt alive, watching, waiting, a predator poised to strike. Tommy, we have to find help. We can't stay here. But just as they moved to run, a towering shape emerged from the trees, an ancient figure cloaked in night. Turn back while you can, it warned, voice like grinding stone. Jenna's heart raced. Where did they go from here? The darkness had followed them, and now the horror was only just beginning. What choice lay ahead? Would they face this abomination, or flee into the depths of Maplewood's treacherous past and risk it all? The figure towered above them, shifting as if woven from the very shadows they had escaped. A gnarled hand stretched out, fingers long and crooked like the branches of the trees surrounding them. Jenna instinctively stepped back, pulling Tommy closer, feeling a primal urge to protect him. Please, we need help. She shouted, her voice trembling, a mix of fear and desperation. The figure's eyes glimmered, two black holes sucking in light, and it tilted its head, considering her. Help. It rasped, each word a dry whisper that crumbled like old leaves. This town is not what it seems. Help comes at a price, child, Tommy whimpered against her. She could feel his small body shaking, and her heart sank. What do you mean? We just escaped. We cannot escape what we are, the figure intoned, the voice slithering into her mind. You may have crossed the threshold, but the shadows have left their mark. Each step you take will lead you deeper into the web of Maplewood. Jenna glanced around, her eyes darting between the dark woods and the ancient being blocking their path. What do we do? She whispered, the words barely leaving her lips. Face the truth. Or run and be devoured. "Mommy, I want to go home," Tommy cried, a raw quiver in his voice. Jenna felt a flash of anger course through her. She wanted to scream, to tear down the figure blocking their escape. But the gravity of its words weighed heavily, refusing to let her act rashly. "What do you know about our home?" she demanded. "Tell me." The creature smiled, a crooked grin that revealed teeth like shattered glass. "Your home is steeped in darkness. It draws the shadows to feast upon fear. You cannot simply leave, the town will bleed you dry unless you confront what lies beneath." Tommy tugged at her sleeve. "Mommy, please. Let us go." "Stay, or flee," the figure continued, its tone eerily calm as its eyes bore into Jenna's. "But know this, the shadows will always come back for what is theirs." With each word, the wind picked up, howling through the trees, as if mocking her indecision. Jenna felt the cool breath of dread slither down her spine. They were on the precipice of something vast and dark, something that reached deeper than fear itself. "Why are you doing this?" she choked out, her mind racing through remnants of the past, the screams, the fire, the images that haunted her thoughts. "I do not do, I reveal," it replied. "A choice lies buried within Maplewood, hidden from sight. Discover it, and you may break the curse. But you must do so before the light fades." Jenna looked at Tommy. She could see the bones of fear etching lines across his small face. The shadows pressed closer, seeping from the trees, eager to claim their next victim. "What if we don't find this truth?" she asked, her heart sinking. "Then the shadows will come for you," the figure said flatly. "And all will be over." The intensity of the moment crashed down upon her, the weight of fate settling over them, heavy and suffocating. Jenna took a deep breath, forcing herself to stand tall, her mind whirling with the implications. "Fine," she said, gritting her teeth. "We'll find this truth. But if there's a way out, you'll help us." "Perhaps," the figure replied, a glimmer of amusement in its hollow eyes. As the figure stepped aside, Jenna could feel the shift in the air, a raw tension that urged her to move. Without waiting for Tommy, she gathered her resolve and took the first step into the unknown. What secrets awaited them in the heart of Maplewood? With every stride, the shadows seethed and whispered behind them, a chorus of forgotten victims echoing warnings that twisted like knives in her gut. The deeper they went, the more she sensed dread pooling in the corners of her mind, coiling like snakes, waiting to strike. "Mommy?" Tommy whispered, his voice barely a thread in the thick darkness. Jenna stopped, heart racing once more, and turned to him. "Stay close, Tommy," she said, as unease wrapped around her like fog. "No matter what happens, don't let go." But as they moved further into the gloom, the sound of their footsteps felt like a countdown, ticking steadily toward an unseen end. What would they find waiting, lurking in the shadows that cradled the secrets of Maplewood? The air thickened around Jenna and Tommy, a heavy blanket of unease that clung to their skin. The darkness whispered old, forgotten secrets, rushing through the branches like cold breath. Each step they took felt like an invitation, a beckoning into a place where light barely grazed the ground. "Mommy, I can't breathe," Tommy gasped, gripping her hand tighter. His small body trembled against hers, his fear palpable, and in that moment, Jenna felt the weight of not just her own terror, but his as well. "You can do this, Tommy," she urged, though her voice wavered. "Just hold on to me." Ahead, the trees shifted, their silhouettes seemed to twist and turn, as if alive. Shadows danced, flickering like flames. Jenna swallowed hard, forcing herself to look beyond the oppressive gloom. What truths were hidden here? What terror awaited them? As they pressed on, they stumbled upon a clearing. The moonlight filtered through the branches, illuminating a dilapidated old well at the center. Brambles twisted around its base, encroaching like the dark thoughts unfurling in Jenna's mind. "Mommy, what's that?" Tommy asked, his voice smaller than a whisper. That well," Jenna said, peering closer. The stones were weathered, etched with strange symbols. They resembled faces, mouths agape in silent screams. "Can we go back?" Tommy's eyes were wide with fright, glistening like dark marbles. Jenna put a hand on his shoulder. "No, we can't. We need to see what it holds. It might be the truth we're looking for." Together, they inched toward the well. A soft wind stirred, sending shivers down her spine. The very air hummed with unspoken words, and she could almost hear the echoes of those who had come before, drawn into the depths. "Listen," she whispered. "Do you hear that?" Tommy tilted his head, his small brow furrowed. "I don't hear anything but the wind. It's cold." "No," she insisted, straining to catch the soft murmurs that rose and fell like distant waves. "Could it really be voices? It sounds like someone is talking." Before she could react, a sudden chill swept through the clearing. The shadows converged, twisting like smoke. The old well seemed to pulse, a heartbeat of darkness synchronized with her own racing pulse. Mommy Tommy's voice quivered as he tugged at her sleeve. "We have to know," Jenna breathed, nostalgia and fear clashing within her. What if the well held answers about Maplewood? About her past? About why they were here? She knelt at the edge. Looking into its depths, she was met with an endless void, darker than any night. She leaned in closer, gasping as the whispers grew louder, drowning out everything else. "Come play with us," Jenna discovered the truth. A cold hand gripped her heart. "No," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Not now." But the whispers turned to a cacophony. They tugged at her consciousness, urging her to listen, to lean further down, to surrender to the darkness below. "Tommy, stay back!" she shouted, but the shadowy tendrils danced around her, wrapping around her limbs, pulling her deeper into the well's abyss. "Mommy!" Tommy screamed, stumbling back into the cold earth, eyes wide. Jenna fought against the pull, her heart racing, every instinct screaming at her to escape. She strained to hold on to reality, to the warmth of her son. But the shadows sang their sweet, deadly lullaby, drowning her will, and then, as if the forest itself held its breath, she felt something break within her, a connection to the terror that had haunted her family for generations. "Jenna," the shadows whispered, their voices now familiar, echoing with weighty memories. "You cannot escape what you are." What would happen when she finally surrendered to the truth? A new kind of dread filled her as realization dawned. "Mommy!" Tommy's voice sliced through the darkness like a blade, pulling her from the shifting void. She jerked back, desperate, all-consuming fear flooding her. "I won't let it take you!" she yelled, lunging for Tommy. But the shadows writhed around them both, ancient and hungry. The ground beneath them trembled, splitting with a low groan. Jenna's heart pounded like a war drum. What would they uncover in the depths of that well? What horrors awaited? The last tendrils of shadow reached for her, snatching at her determination before she could fully react. And then, darkness. What lay waiting on the other side of their choices? Salvation or terror? Would they emerge whole, or would the town of Maplewood claim them as its next secrets? With a sudden jolt, Jenna felt the ground give way beneath them, and instinct kicked in. She lunged forward, her fingers wrapping around Tommy's wrist as the shadows clawed at her, clawing their way into her thoughts. The darkness surged, trying to pull them apart with its icy grip. "Mommy! Please!" Tommy cried, his voice cracking like glass. The fear in his eyes was sharp, a knife slicing through her resolve. "Hold on tight. Don't let go!" she yelled, desperately trying to anchor herself against the void that threatened to swallow them whole. The shadows hissed, their whispers turning into shrieks, a symphony of anguish and malice that battered against her mind. "Let us take you, Jenna. Father has missed you." Gripping her son tighter, Jenna reeled backward, her heart pounding, nearly drowning in the chaos. "No. You don't get to have him." The well rumbled ominously, the stones shifting, as if alive, hungry for the flesh and souls of the living. Tommy's terrified gasp sent another surge of warmth through her. She could not let this place win. With one swift motion, she pulled him closer and turned, racing back towards the tree line, away from the beckoning shadows. The whispers grew louder, desperate, reeling her in as thick tendrils of darkness lashed at her ankles, begging, pleading as if they had souls of their own. "Mommy, don't," Tommy began, panic swelling in his voice. "Keep running." She didn't dare look back. The dense thicket rushed past, branches clawing at their clothes. Fear of what lay behind was far greater than the terror that thrummed in her. The pulse of the well echoed, a heartbeat in the forest, threatening to collapse the very ground beneath them. Suddenly, they broke through the brush into the dim moonlight. Jenna stumbled, nearly losing her balance. She glanced back, the well now a dark maw, surrounded by writhing shadows. But relief was short-lived. The air thickened again, and a hush fell over the landscape. Distant howls mixed with the rustling of leaves, blending into an eerie symphony. "What is happening?" Tommy whimpered, eyes darting around. "This place, it wants us to stay." Jenna whispered, fear slithering back into her heart. Even under the moonlight, she could feel the darkness lurking just beyond reach, desperately seeking a way back into their minds. Before she could answer, a low growl surged from the underbrush. The shadows flickered like flames, coiling around them, seeping through the trees, pulling Jenna's breath from her lungs. "Mommy! Mommy!" Tommy cried, his small hands shaking uncontrollably. "Run!" Jenna shouted, her voice breaking, panic igniting her movements. They dashed forward, away from the well and the darkness. But how far could they escape? A chill crept down her spine. The forest was alive, the trees shifting and moving as if in direct defiance of their intent. As they turned a corner, Jenna skidded to a stop. Ahead lay the faint outline of a crumbling cabin, its windows shattered, framing an invitation that felt more like a trap. "Should we go in there?" Her breath hitched. They were running out of options, the forest growing thicker with an almost tangible tension. The whispers chased them, relentless and hungry. "Maybe there's a way out," Jenna said, her voice barely above a whisper, her instinct battling against the instinct to flee further. Tommy tugged at her sleeve, his eyes wide with hesitation. "I don't want to go in there, Mommy. I know, baby, I know, but what was worse, that creeping darkness or the unknown behind the cabin door?" They needed answers. Jenna could feel them swirling just outside her grasp. She found herself stepping forward, compelled to discover what lay hidden within the decaying walls, but as they approached, the air grew heavy, a suffocating weight pressing against her chest. A low voice echoed from within the cabin. "Come, the truth awaits you." With a final glance back at Tommy, his small frame trembling beside her, Jenna reached for the door, heart racing. What would they find inside? Would it reveal the truth or bury them in deeper darkness? As she pushed the door open, an icy draft rushed out, pulling them in. "Mommy?" Tommy's voice trembled. And then the whispering stopped. What new horror awaited within the walls of the cabin? What secrets could they possibly uncover? The door creaked open, an unwelcoming sigh that echoed through the empty cabin. The scent of mildew and rot washed over Jenna and Tommy, mixing with the chill in the air. It felt alive, wrapping around them, breathing. "Mommy!" Tommy shrank back, pressing against her, his breath hitching in his throat. The darkness inside seemed thicker than outside, swallowing any light that dared to enter. "Stay close," Jenna whispered, pulling him forward. Each step felt heavier, the floorboards groaning underfoot like a warning. "We need to find out what is happening." As they crossed the threshold, the heavy door swung shut behind them with an ominous thud, sealing their fate. The cabin was dim, lit by slivers of moonlight sneaking through grimy windows, casting faint shadows that danced on the walls like forgotten spirits. The walls held whispers, echoes of pain that clawed at Jenna's sanity. "This isn't real, it's just the wind," she murmured, but doubt slithered back into her mind. What if this place was just as alive as the forest? What if it held the answers they feared to confront? "Mommy, I don't like it here." Tommy's voice trembled, questioning the safety of their decision. Before she could respond, a soft rustling came from the far corner of the room. Jenna paused, letting the silence hang like a thick fog. Before their eyes, a figure slowly emerged from the shadows. Old, gaunt, draped in rags that fluttered like dead leaves. "Help me," it croaked, its voice a rasp of despair. "Stay behind me, Tommy," Jenna said through gritted teeth. Panic swelled inside her, clawing for a way out, but she forced herself to stand firm. "Help." The figure stepped closer, revealing hollow eyes glazed with a deep, unnatural sadness. They want to let me leave who?" Jenna asked, her voice trembling now too. "Those who wander." It began to convulse, a silent scream etched across its features. "You want to escape." Tommy clutched her leg, the tiny body trembling as Jenna stepped back, adrenaline surging through her veins. "We have to go." She yelled, and turned, but a sudden crash echoed through the cabin, rattling the walls, freezing her in place. From nowhere, a sound flooded in a cacophony of whispers, 100 voices melding into one, promising despair and darkness. She recognized it. It was the same chilling chorus they had heard in the forest. Jenna, the whispers wrapped around her name, sweet and sinister. "You've come home, you've come to stay, Mommy, please." Tommy begged, eyes wide with terror, pulling at her, but she could hardly move. The room blurred around her, the shadows thickening, stretching out to grasp her with elongated fingers. "Let us go." She finally managed to shout, charging for the door, heart hammering like a drum. But in her mind, a panic-stricken thought struck. What if leaving meant losing Tommy to the dark? She flung the door open, and night rushed in as if the cabin screamed in protest. They stumbled outside, breathless, Jason at her side, their legs fueled by sheer terror, away from whatever horror lurked behind them, but the forest was waiting. Shapes swirled among the trees, faces from the shadows, eyes gleaming with malice. The whispers started again, pulling her back. "Come back, it's not over." Bursting from the cabin, Jenna pulled Tommy close, but when she looked down, he was gone. "Tommy?" A void opened in her chest, chilling her to the bone. "No. Tommy." The darkness pressed down, a cold weight that suffocated hope. The whispers grew louder, every syllable a dagger that sank into her heart. She fumbled forward, eyes darting, searching the blackness for any sign of her son. The shadows flickered, morphing into shapes that twisted and contorted. Among them, a faint pulse of light shimmered, beckoning like a distant star. Was it a way out? Or deeper darkness waiting to swallow them alive? "Tommy!" She screamed, battling against the tide of horrors crashing around her. The forest held its breath, anticipating what she would choose next. And then the world spun around her, reality wavered. Jenna felt herself being dragged toward the light, a siren's call. Promising liberation or perhaps destruction. What awaited her on the other side? Would she find Tommy, or had the darkness already claimed him? Jenna stumbled through the darkness, breath coming in short, sharp gasps. Her heart pounded against her ribs like a drum, the echo of her fear ringing in her ears. "Tommy!" She screamed into the void, the words twisting on the wind, lost to the night. Desperation clawed at her throat as shadows flickered and danced around her like malevolent phantoms. Each twisted form held whispers of lost souls, voices that begged for release, a cruel reminder of what lurked in the recesses of Maplewood. "Mommy!" came a small voice, threading through the chaos. Jenna's heart leaped, a fleeting glimmer of hope piercing the torment. She turned toward the sound, weaving through the gnarled trees, panic igniting every instinct within her. "Tommy! Here!" He appeared, clutching his dinosaur, eyes wide with fear, illuminated by a shaft of moonlight that broke through the canopy. Relief washed over her, a tidal wave that nearly toppled her as she raced to him. She scooped him up, tucking him close. "I thought I lost you." "I was scared, Mommy," Tommy whimpered, burying his face in her neck. Jenna could feel the trembling in his small body, his heart hammering against her chest. "I won't let anything happen to you again," she promised, tightening her grip. But deep down, she knew the darkness was relentless, and Maplewood was not done with them yet. They pressed on, the forest shifting around them, shadows pulsating like living entities desperate to reclaim their prey. But Jenna had one advantage: determination. "We're getting out of here," she whispered fiercely, steering Tommy toward the flickering light that beckoned through the trees. "It's beautiful," Tommy said, pointing ahead, his childish wonder breaking through the veil of fear. The glow bounced off the trees, illuminating a path that felt tangible, almost alive. But Jenna's instincts screamed that this wasn't salvation, it was the town's deceptive allure. Yet, she pushed the thought aside and kept moving. As they drew nearer, the light grew brighter, revealing an old-fashioned street, cobblestones slick with rain and shadows curled up against the edges. The streetlights flickered on, swaying gingerly like ghosts welcoming them back into the fold. Discomfort pooled in her gut. This wasn't how Maplewood had felt before. Beneath the seemingly warm glow lay an unsettling calm. "Stay close, Tommy." But just as they stepped onto the street, the true nature of their sanctuary revealed itself. The townsfolk poured out of the shadows, their eyes hollow, mirroring the void of the night. Faces that had once lost their warmth now gleamed with a sinister joy, smiles plastered across lips that belied their true hunger. "Welcome back," they sang in harmony, a haunting melody that wrapped around Jenna's mind. "No, we have to go." "Stay away," Jenna shouted, shielding Tommy as the people closed in. Their laughter rang in her skull, each note a taunt, echoing from her childhood, a joke turned bitter. They advanced in a wave, out of the shadows, hands reaching out, eager to reclaim their lost children. Jenna felt the walls close in. "Tommy." She pulled him closer, panic gripping her like a vice. She turned to run, but the sensations of being back in the town, the familiarity, the sense, the distant laughter were intoxicating. "It's not real," she shouted at herself, forcing her feet to move despite the pull of what was once home. But it was no use. The shadows slithered from their corners, racing to reclaim what was stolen. A cold hand gripped her shoulder, and she whipped around. "You cannot escape, Jenna," the old woman from the gathering said, her eyes glimmering with an eager madness. "The town has missed you. You belong to us now." Jenna felt the grip on her heart turn cold, just like the darkness that loomed. "You can't have us." With a primal scream echoing in the depths of her soul, Jenna turned to Tommy. His innocent face, eyes glistening with something she couldn't identify: fear, hope. The townsfolk were closing in, reaching for her son, their eager hands brushing against the edges of her resolve. "Tommy, listen to me," she pleaded, her chest tight. "We're getting out. Hold my hand, and don't stop." He nodded, gripping her little finger with all his strength. The flood of love and protection surged within her, stronger than the shadows that wove around their feet, clamoring for them to stay. "On three," she said, bracing herself. 1, 2, 3, run." They surged forward as a unit, the world blurring around them. Jenna fought against the darkness that clawed at her back, long tendrils of despair reaching out for her. "Go, go, go," she shouted, her feet pounding against the cobblestones, each step a defiance against the weight pressing down. They were almost there. She could see a path clear ahead, blinding light spilling from the edges of the town, promising freedom. But before they could break through, a deafening roar erupted behind them, echoing with horror, a sound that resonated deep within their souls, urging them to turn back. "Don't look back," Jenna screamed as she tightened her grip on Tommy, feeling his small frame tremble against her. They ran. Fear pulsing through every fiber of her being, they burst through the last barrier as light enveloped them, the screams faded into the night, replaced by silence. The shadows pulled back, receding into Maplewood's depths. The light felt warm and soothing as it wrapped around them, but Jenna knew the darkness had not been vanquished, it was only waiting, biding its time. Tommy looked up at her, eyes wide and innocent. "Did we do it, Mommy?" "Yes, baby," she whispered, holding him tight. "But we have to keep running. We have to find safety far away from here." They ran into the night ahead, not looking back, leaving Maplewood and its sinister secrets behind, knowing that the truth was a heavy load they shouldered. Even as the darkness throbbed in their minds, Jenna held on to her son, their bond a shield against all that loomed. They had escaped this battle, but the war was far from over, and though they could not evade the shadows forever, at least for tonight, they were free. As you follow Jenna and Tommy's harrowing journey through Maplewood, now it's your moment to get involved. You need to subscribe to the channel now so you don't miss the next exclusive story that could jump right into your wildest fears. Smash the like button, every click helps the algorithm and brings more thrilling tales to life. Flood the comment section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about what lies ahead for Jenna and Tommy. We want to hear from you, don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. Let them join in on the suspense and fear only true fans can appreciate. Your support means everything. Let us grow this family and face the darkness together.